something that you said caught my attention, and this has to do with the crimes, war crimes being committed in Ukraine, where we see the chief prosecutor of the ICC, Khalid Khan, flying to Ukraine, and the pressure also that was brought on him to open up investigation towards prosecuting war crimes and crimes against humanity. Now you're with that same court. Why is the rallying cry around Ukraine so loud, clear, and obvious? But in the case of Southern Cameroon, we are in a 5-year genocidal war, and that's the true term, in case there are those who think it is not having the same benefit. I mean, there's so much to be said here, at least from the layman's perspective.
You have to look at the intervention of ICC Ukraine.
So can you speak to him, by the way?
I can't sit here and say anything, but I'm aware that the Southern Cameroons have filed several complaints from different angles.
And where are those now?
And they have been updating their file as much as possible. And when I address this, I will let you know exactly why the Southern Cameroons, about what I think about the complaints of Southern Cameroon. I can't give an answer. But what I know is the 5 complaints, and they continue to update. Mm-hmm. And I will now look at the legal perspective from which the ICC might attain jurisdiction. But before I get to that, the question of Ukraine, the intervention of the ICC Ukraine, you have to look at 2 perspectives. You find that the prosecutor went there even before about 37 countries wrote to the ICC to intervene.
How many countries?
More than 37 European countries, including Asian countries, like Japan and others.
What did you say?
And
the hegemony of the West.
No, the first perspective is that Ukraine itself is not a member of a state party to the ICC statute or to the Rome statute. But the Rome statute says a country which is not a state party might nevertheless invite the ICC to intervene crimes committed within its territory. Before the attack, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, because of the crimes committed on the territory of Ukraine, including by Russian forces in part of Ukraine, Ukraine had invited the ICC to intervene in investigating those crimes. So before the invasion, the ICC already had jurisdiction at the invitation of Ukraine, although not the state party. And this is the premise on which the ICC prosecutor went to Ukraine, because they were invited by the Ukrainian government within the perspective. So the invasion of Ukraine and the crimes against humanity and war crimes committed there now, including possible genocide there in Ukraine, occurred when the ICC investigation was already decided upon by the prosecutor. Now, secondly, state parties, 37, if not more, invited the ICC when the ICC was already there. They already had. In the case of the Southern Cameroons, one interesting legal development is that, like the Cameroon signed the Rome Statute at the time. It was one of the countries that signed the Rome Statute, but did not commit to become a member of the Rome Statute. Now, the signing of the Rome Statute by the Cameroon, on the premise, on the perspective of customary international law, commits them to respect the rule of law, not to commit crimes against humanity, war crimes, genocide on the territory of the Southern Cameroon.
Okay.
They commit as a matter of crime of customary international law. First, even before then, like the Cameroon is also a state party to the Geneva Conventions. So, as a matter of customary international law, the world will not sit and see another genocide occur if they were to apply the law correctly. But more important is that the material jurisdiction, the requirements are met. because the people of Cameroon signed and is committing this crime, and they have admitted many times. We have Tanganji saying we have to exterminate them. We have Paul behind himself in end of the year species, saying that you don't lay arms, my soldier will exterminate. He himself even said that he was aware that he was being accused of committing genocide in one of the species. So the element of awareness, knowledge, and specific intent are all met. The problem is the jurisdictional requirement, and these jurisdictional requirements can be attained to show that crimes are being committed on the territory of a state party of the ICC against Southern Cameroonians. They prevailed in Cameroon by pushing many people from the territory, burning many of their ancestral homes, and deporting them across the border to Nigeria in the hundreds of thousands. The requirement for jurisdiction is met. But it's not met because we say so.
So it
is the victims. It is those victims who are in Nigeria who have to tell their story and give enough evidence from the statements that people or the leaders and others will go and take from them to show exactly how they find themselves in the territory of Nigeria. And if they find that, they found themselves as a result of the crime of deportation from the territory of Southern Cameroons, like the 13 villages in Manu, where the Jew actually sign an order and who have their hands. Like going over to Nigeria to kidnap people, to adopt people and carry them back. Extermination of people, the rapes and all whatnot. These are clear indicia of crimes that could be used to establish jurisdiction. The problem is that has he reached the threshold? It is on that threshold that, as not necessarily as somebody who is within the ICC system, but as a Southern Cameroonian, as a victim myself, because currently I occupy my mother's house in Azifontem, even put your flag, and from there they are committing crimes. So as a victim, I can tell you clearly that we have to update that, the evidence that can give the ICC the jurisdictional threshold to be able to intervene.
So you say jurisdictional requirements have been met?
No, it is still being built, because.
So what is this threshold? When does it tip such that it becomes sufficient enough for other states to intervene, to make the case as they did, writing to the ICC to investigate these crimes? Or what do we have to do differently?
If 65,000, 100,000 Amazonians were in the territory of Nigeria, they were to record their statements. They were in
say that again, so that I think those who might have the benefit of listening to you, Chief, because one of the things that have really perplexed me and many other people who would hear your voice today is why is it good for the Ukrainians who are fleeing war, and today they have the ICC already looking into prosecuting war crimes, but yet in the case of Southern Cameroons, Amazonia, there is nothing. It's as if it's a blip on the radar and no one cares.
Amazonians, you were here and Amazonians saw the Rohingyas from Myanmar. They face extermination on the face of the world. Myanmar is not a state party.
But who intervened in their case? So because that we understand some of the parallels here.
I met the delegation of Rohingyas at the ICC on the 4th of December 2019. I virtually led the delegation to the office of the prosecutor. Right. And the reason was this. They had several, they did not have just one association, they had several associations of Rohingyas, one of the strongest being in London. And I know their leader, Tom. He came, some from Australia, from Germany. But they were able to unite around one goal. Let us take the case to ICC, but because ICC doesn't have jurisdiction, only a country which is a state party can give jurisdiction. But Myanmar deported hundreds of thousands of Rohingyas across the border to Bangladesh, which is a state party.
So who brought the case?
The Rohingyas themselves, the diaspora and others, recorded statements indicating the victimization of these individuals.
So
the cases of rape, they got the evidence and everything, and deposited this overwhelmed the ICC prosecution with this. And they told ICC, these crimes started from Myanmar, a non-state party, and were clearly consummated within a state party.
So Nigeria has
So Nigeria now, because of the crimes that commenced from the territory of Ambazonia and ended up being consummated in the territory of Nigeria. And people are still being adopted by gendarmes. Some were adopted with Naira 5. They didn't get them with arms. None of them had an arm. They were merely holding a meeting, their meeting in the territory of Nigeria under the protected international law. They were adopted and carried back to Imperial Cameroon. We've heard about 37 other people adopted and carried to the Imperial Cameroon. We heard about Imperial Cameroon crossing the border and killing some. And many more are living, as we're talking about, and their ancestors' home. The problem is that, yes, we engage to take care of these refugees. We call them refugees, but they're also victims. But also try for them to tell their story in a compelling manner and identify the perpetrators of Social Republic of Cameroon. The number is enough that they can be overwhelmed. I see overwhelmed. There is no way I see that ICC will not intervene because the judicial threshold will be met. But it has to be substantial. And that's why the recording statement from these refugees is enough. Additionally, I've said that there are many countries with universal jurisdiction now, including Argentina.
What country?
Argentina, including South Africa, including Germany, including France, Belgium, Sweden, Poland, Spain. All these countries have universal jurisdiction.
What does universal jurisdiction mean?
These
and
are
how
countries.
Can we leverage that?
These are countries that you commit a crime against humanity anywhere in the world, and you find yourself in the territory of those countries, they have jurisdiction to apprehend and try you.
So if I were in Argentina
yes,
and I was a victim of the crimes in Cameroon, I present myself to the authorities there and tell my story and ask them to take up my case.
Now, the Southern Cameroon diaspora, they have been very, 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 very active, and they've done so great within the means to raise awareness,
right,
to help in the defense of homeland. But they have an additional power which they have not discovered. There are many, many Ambazonian citizens living in many of these countries with universal jurisdiction who are victims. To be a victim of the war, you need not be present. If they go and exterminate your parents, your sisters, rape them, and they burn down your ancestral homes, you have a right as a citizen of that country to file a complaint. I am a citizen of Sweden, and I'm here in Sweden. They went to my ancestral homes. Here are the crimes, here are the evidence. And here are the perpetrators of these crimes. They have a right to look into those crimes. It's a matter of law in these countries. There is no way they will refuse. But because we have not applied to this, it is even good if about 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. The crimes, for example, of torture. Torture is one of the most important, most serious crimes in international law. is one of the most important. They got your brother and they tortured them.
So,
and
Chief, let's put this in practical terms, because I think one of the challenges we have, particularly in prosecuting this war from the diaspora, is sometimes information overload without having the depth and breadth of the information to make it actionable.
No,
so
everybody knows. In your book, and somewhere in the interview, I think, The Voice of America, you clearly laid out that you are a victim because your ancestral home, village, was raised down.
Right.
And that these women...
My own brother killed, another
killed,
relative in jail.
So why are you not a victim?
We are. I am. Yes. As they say...
Yes, you are a victim. And you have the right to say, my father was killed, my grandfather was killed in this particular situation. The problem is just that within their own context, even if we put aside the quarreling somehow,
put aside the quarreling
and tell ourselves that we are doing a lot we can. And I can tell you the quarreling notwithstanding, they are doing a wonderful job.
That's true.
I can tell you they're doing a wonderful job.
Yes.
Because there are a number of years that nobody ever thought about us. And no matter what, I really sincerely congratulate every ambassador, every Southern Cameroonian. I wouldn't take sides in the quarrel and everything, but the quarrel will not obfuscate the fact that most ambassadors are very, very concerned that they are victims that are doing just a lot. The other problem is that with regard to that victimization, they can at least agree that will bring the evidence about the victims are not only in Nigeria, the victims are not in Ghana. Some have found their way here, and some
but
are
Chief,
here.
I thought that effort had already been done. And here I'm thinking about an effort that was carried out by the Ambazonia Coalition team, where they met with a bunch of lawyers here to document the atrocities that has been going on. But
they are victims. They are not saying at the same time that we are bringing these complaints because we are also victims.
So that's the difference.
They, on their own behalf, on behalf of many other victims, and that's why I clearly say that the definition of victim that we must know about people being victims. I hear some people saying, "Oh, those people are not on the field."
Exactly.
Oh, this and that.
That you're in the diaspora and living a good life and saying you're a victim.
That argument is
Please talk to our audience here about victimhood and the definition of victim in cases of war and who speaks for whom, because I think there's some misunderstanding about that.
Your brother who was killed, your family members and your sister homes, they have widows, they have children.
Right.
And do you have the locals, do you have the confidence to make a complaint as a victim? The answer clearly is yes.
Can you say that again so that our audience can hear that?
You really have the power to make a complaint to countries that have the jurisdiction, or even to write to the ICC, even as an individual, with the evidence. The answer clearly is yes. And that's why I am satisfied that many of our people, even people whom may not be talking, who may not be out there, who are not heard every day on the social media, I have, from my personal knowledge, many of them are doing so much. They are not sleeping. And that's why I say I thank and encourage everyone else and say that we are all victims and we should do the best we can. And to be able to rally as a group of victims and demonstrate. If they came and do what we call touching of a whole village, widespread, based on the widespread and systematic touching of buildings is a crime against humanity, but also a war crime. The destruction of the subsistence economy of your people, coming and getting motorcycles, all of them, and touching them, burning them out there, going around and raping women, and also the question of threats, or incitement, which the Tanganyika did persistently so many times